much to some, but Mama, Papa and everyone lived in the buses and the tumble-down shacks. Home sweet home was Jackson's track. If only could I turn the time back, mix it with the lovers and the lumberjacks. Listen to the echo of the old broad axe ring through the hills of Jackson's track.
Well, it's another exciting episode of Kurnai Konnection, and it's Trevor Mullet, isn't it?
That it is. And welcome all you out there to Kurnai Konnection.
Fantastic. Now listen, it's the warm weather's coming up, and I'm thinking...
Snakes.
I'm often thinking snakes in warm weather. I'm also thinking national parks and bushfires and control burns and who's controlling them.
Exactly, there is a worry that because every year they do it all the time. They burn up and next minute it's out of control, so you've got to keep an eye out for that, that's for sure. Well,
now the white fella's proved himself to not be very good at control burning, and the black fella's actually quite deadly at it, isn't that so?
That is so. That's because of, when you grow up, your grandfather and the father before him taught him, and yes, you do learn.
Right, so that brings me to native title, and your sister Pauline's actually talking about native title today, and she's putting it in a very clear manner for everyone to understand. So let's go and have a listen to Pauline.
Yes, we shall.
Well, hooray for today, Pauline Mullet. I've got you in front of the camera, and you're going to just explain briefly this business about ownership of land, native title, etc. Now, the average white fella is terrified at the mention of the word native title, and maybe the Aboriginal staking a claim to land. But as you just pointed out to me, the white fella doesn't even own his own land.
No.
Fill us in.
Well, yes, of course. The country, the governments own your land. Everybody pays their rates, so therefore it's a land tax. The land that everybody owns is about that much under their house. The rest of it's owned by state and Commonwealth governments. Native title sits all over the top of the other legislations that also that the public has to deal with. Part of public land and private land is that sometimes people may own more than 2 or 3 acres and want to subdivide, and then that triggers to the shires, the local governments, for a permit, which then triggers the rest of the legislations that may overlap that permit that landowner is actually requiring he wants to sell. So the native title is only triggered when the landowner wants to either subdivide to sell off a public land, or he may want to put in a large chicken where they have a lot of chickens.
Oh yeah, chicken shed, or the permits to do for land use.
Yes, exactly. And some of these permits can trigger other legislations that will overlap, like environmental legislation, like it could be the water legislation, it could be other legislations that overlap that permit. So a native title is just another legislation.
But it's not here yet, is it? So
yeah, native title is here. It's alive. It's been alive since 1997 when the Gippsland claims went in. It is still before the federal court. There has been a determination which can be subject to challenge, and it has been subject to challenge. But native title reassuring the wider public is that we need you to work with the native people that have lodged those land claims, and particularly working in reconciliation over wrongdoings that maybe the government haven't been quite upfront about it all, and I'm sure the public would be quite threatened about governments not exposing enough information to the wider public of their understanding, and it's confusing, and that's why it's very confusing.
Okay, well, I like the way that you've put it. I do, and I actually thought I was under the misconception that I owned my house and little piece of land, but I don't.
No, not at all.
When your native title claim comes through, if I want to run a caravan park out in the backyard, it wouldn't be just the Shire saying whether I could or not, but native title.
Of course, and it would be subjected to the water catchment authorities. It would be subjected to the forest lands authorities. So it's attached to some government authority that says, well, you can only do this and you may not be able to do that.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm liking the sound of this.
Although native title does, there are good benefits with native title, and it's about working together to live better, to occupy the lands, in understanding that we've been here before you, and the government, it's a government problem. How the government works with the public or the wider public, that's their call.
Yes, I know, and there are actually things that are getting a bit on the shafted side at the moment too, aren't they, in this process, because the government really actually don't want to give up their full powers, do they? They don't want to bend, do they?
No, look,
and they're
the governments have legislation requirements that all people must abide by, but some of those rules and regulations do not affect us. The only legislation that affects us is native title, and it's about natives' rights here in this country, and it's about occupation of you people being here for only a short span of time, and it's about justice, doing the right thing, working with the public and making them understand that they're not alone, we're not alone, we're not alone. The governments are also suppressing everyone. So native title holders like myself really want to work with the wider public, making a difference in this country, getting better relationships, because that's what it's about, building relationships with the wider community. And, some things that the government are doing, we can support each other on a lot of the values that we see together.
Well, thank you very much. That's I like that. I do.
Good. Thank you, Chrissy. Is that enough?
Yeah, that's perfect.
So we're going to do the next sequence when?
You want to do it now?
No.
Well, she explained that very well. And native title, are we any closer to it?
Well, I dare say we're probably working on it. We're probably getting closer. It might be another, down the track sometime.
Another 50 years or something?
Well, no, not that long. I'd hope not, but yes.
Okay, well, we'll see you after the break.
Welcome back to Kurnai Connection today.
Too right. Now, next on is Judy Hood. Now, you're related to her, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I'm related to Judy.
And now, when Jackson's Track broke up, they went out to Rokeby and other people went all over the place. Now, I think the Austins, is that when Murray's family went to Newham South?
I dare say around that time, yes.
That's when the highway all broke up.
That's right. That is when the highway all broke up. That's right, yes, they did.
Yeah, okay. And, well, let's go and see what Judy Hood's got to say, shall we?
We shall, yes, we will.
Judy Hood, you're another one of the Hood clan that grew up out at Jackson's Track.
Yep, yeah, I was, and that.
And how old can you remember much about it?
Would have been about 7 or 8. He was when we moved off there to go to Drawn, and we was only because we had all about maybe 4 or 5 shacks on just one property out there, and we lived there for a little while, and then we moved out to Ropery, we lived out there for a little while, and then, went from there to Nearham South, and then we come back into Warragul and moved here, and we've been here all our life.
And after, when Jackson's Track, do you remember when that was all bulldozed and closed down and you're all shipped off to the side of the highway? Do you remember that?
I think barely, just, because I was too young. But my sisters and brothers would know all about that, because they was a bit older than what I was.
Fill us in on your who's who.
On my dad, his name's Reuben Hood, and Auntie Gina, and Auntie Euphoria, brother and sisters.
Yeah, how good's that? And so you're related to the big head honcho, old Ma and Pa, Dora and Stewie?
Stewie Hood, yeah, he used to live with us in Warragul when we first moved here, because our grandmother got sick, and, when she passed away, he lived with us for a while.
Ah.
Yeah.
They're both fantastic looking people. What was he like?
Oh, he was really good. He used to sit down, out of the fireplace, do his work, do his own boomerangs and make them maps of Australia, putting animals in it, drawing and that. Yeah, wasn't allowed near his little spot or near his room when we was growing up. Yeah.
And what did he do with his boomerangs? Use them?
No, he sold them. He sold them for, whatever he wanted. A bit of money on the side to have a bet and that.
Well, it must have been pretty hard for him, I reckon, and Dora to sort of have to settle into, like, town living, because they grew up on, we would have grown up on country even before Lake Tyers, wouldn't he?
Yeah, well, he's been around, like more or less like gypsy people, going by his stories my dad told me and that. So up and down the coast and that, yeah.
And Dora, what was she like?
Oh, she was really good, really good cook. She was a Christian woman and, didn't smoke or drink or anything like that. Yeah, she was just a churchgoer. Lovely old lady.
The two of them, like, they would have kept everyone at Jackson's Track right in line, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would have. They would have kept everybody in line, Even when they got out of line, they would have, the grandfather would have pulled them up. That was their business. Yeah. Men's business, and the women, when they used to cook and have a cup of tea and that, and they used to be, just all in one bunch. Yeah.
And
what I remember.
And have you spent any time up at Lake Tyers?
Oh, sometimes I do. But, if I go that way, I just go camping and have a look around the place, and then, go to the next place, camping and whatever else, and come back slowly back this way. Yeah.
And, when Lake Tyers was handed back, you'd be a shareholder, wouldn't you?
Yeah, as far as I know. I'd leave that all up to my big sister and brothers.
Okay, now let's talk spooky stuff. What about the Doolgar? Did the Doolgar used to hang around out at Jackson's Track? You all scared of the Doolgar?
Not out there. There was nothing, far as I know, out that way of the Doolgar. But when we used to stay with my auntie in Lake's entrance at Harrison Track, there was Doolgars out there, because we used to live out the shacks down there too.
Oh.
Yeah, with my mum's sisters. So yeah, we had 3 or 4 shacks out there too at Blackfellas Track, they call it, the Harrison Track.
Yeah, where's that?
Lake entrance.
Oh.
Yeah, just, out the bush and that. So.
Oh, nice, bark huts.
Oh, yeah, we didn't have any windows. We had a door, but, no windows. We just had them spud bags hanging over them days, and that was it. Yeah, we had possums creeping around and, Bigfoot, or whatever they like to call it, because you can smell them and hear them.
Who, Doolgars?
Yeah, oh yeah, they still exist, I think, down that way.
What do they smell like?
Oh, they're feral smells. Feral. Can't describe it.
Mm.
Yeah. And that, when we was growing up, yeah. So,
And
spooky it was. Hey, how are you?
And any what are bunyips? I've never heard about bunyips. Are they worth worrying about?
No, not if I know of. Them days they had all different kind of unusual spooky stories, from our old fellas and that.
And so did you grow up with a few extra sort of special spooky stories that the elders would tell you before you went to bed?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, little bit. We used to scare us. We used to go to bed them days.
Can you give us one?
Oh, you know, if we didn't go to sleep, we would have had to, we'll hear something, you know, and they'll just get one of the old guys and knock on the window or the door and scare us, and, you know, another 10, 15 minutes we'll be all sleeping. Yeah, and that, so yeah.
And so up at Lake's Entrance there, living out there in the bush, sort of you hopped into the bush tucker and all that?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. When, you know, we was growing up, we was into, you know, bit of meat, you know, off the land and that, and then we still had to go, our parents used to go into town to get our bread and butter and tea, you know, all that stuff. Yeah, so yeah.
And now you sort of work in a volunteer capacity in the school's education system, don't you?
Yeah. Been working there for a while, a long time since my children was in there, and I know how the school runs, and so I just, you know, get these young parents today to, you know, have a meeting with the principals, sit down, have a cup of tea, with the kids as teachers as well to see where they're at. Yep, and that.
And you say that you can sort of, because of this network you're involved in, you can ring up someone and you can find out how your grandkids are going way over the other side of Melbourne or something.
Yeah, I can. I just, you know, ring up another worker to just, you know, either talk to another worker or the principal to find out how's my grandchildren going, how they're coping, and, you know, if they need extra, you know, bit of help with the school and that, I can, you know, put them on the right track.
Yeah, good. And you get around the op shops and get school uniforms for kids?
Yeah, I do that. You know, even school shoes, I get it, you know, put it out in my own pocket to help these kids today. Yeah.
Yeah, well, good for you.
Yeah, so, you know, I get really good with all the principals and vice principals and teachers and that. So, yeah, you know, when I go past the school, you know, you got the kids singing out, hello, how are you, and all that, you know, or they'll ask for the grannies, how they cope, you know, whereabouts they. Yeah.
And how would you like, be nice to just go and live in a bark hut again from time to time?
Oh, I sooner go back bush now. Too much stuff, you know, fatty fat stuff. You know, you can't eat the right meal. Not here, you can't even, you know, we can't even kill our own animals now. Even when you go fishing, there's got to be so measurements and whatever else, you know, you got to have a licence. Them days we didn't. You know, you catch half a dozen, that's enough to feed a tribe. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Thanks for having a chat with us.
Well, all right then, thank you very much. All right.
Well, I think Judy's got it right. She wants to go bush again. She's a bit jack of living in town. What about you?
Oh, definitely. I definitely live out in the bush is better than living in town. It's just, yep, I'd live a life like that, for sure.
And she reckons it's pretty easy to feed a tribe in the bush. What do you reckon? You've done it?
Yeah, quite easy. No worries. There's plenty of live kill out there.
Fantastic. We'll see everyone after the break, I suppose. You reckon?
Yes, we will. Welcome back to Kurnai Connection, and we're here today.
Too right. And now the next one on is Deborah Stewart, otherwise known as Mary Stewart. Do you know her?
No, not. I've heard a little bit about it, but not a great deal, no.
Okay, well, we'll find out just a little bit about her now, hey?
That's right, we certainly will.
I'm Deborah Stewart, otherwise known as Mary Stewart. My mother was from Lake Tyers. I'm from Orbost originally. I grew up in Queensland, and I've taken up the hobby of painting since I was about 16. And I've had a few showings, Perstucker Gallery in Townsville, and now this one for NAIDOC here at Warrigal Art Centre. And catching up with all the family over the years has been really great sort of inspiration about art and how you do things and how you get your stories is from, you know, it's all about my history. It's what I put my artwork into, how I grew up and where I grew up and just learning it all now. I grew up with a foster family, sort of stayed in touch with family sisters and brothers. We used to come to Melbourne all the time for visits and then head home again. I never got to meet my mum, but I made a promise to myself I'd come and meet my dad, and I did when I was 17, and sadly enough he passed away in February 2008. I'm a mother of 4 kids. I've got some grandkids now and teach them the art as well. My son's quite a good artist as well. And it's just been good being home, catching up with the elders and doing, community work with them has been, an amazing journey for me to be able to come in and, you sort of feel like a bit of an outsider sometimes when you sort of come back into your own community because you've been away for so long. But they sort of, now I'm just family. That's, everybody knows who I am, and they all sort of, as soon as you say your name, they say, oh, I know who you are. Or, they get really emotional because they haven't seen you since you're a little girl, and it's been an amazing journey for me. I'm 44 years old now, and I've been raised in Queensland since I was about 5, and made the choice at the age of 17 to come looking for biological family. And being an Indigenous person growing up in a white society, it sort of taught me the best of both worlds, that I could have the best of both worlds. I could reach out to my Indigenous family if I wanted to, or I could reach out to my non-Indigenous family and the society that they sort of brought me up in. I grew up on a farm, so I think I got the better end of the deal other than my sisters and brothers. They lived in Melbourne. And I think growing up on the farm actually taught me a lot about life and the values that my family's taught me. And one of their values was to never ever doubt myself, or never ever, let the fact that I'm an Aboriginal person get me down. It's not the colour of my skin, it's who I am. And that's something that I carry with me all the time. I say the same things to my own kids, that you're Indigenous, you're Aboriginal, be proud of who you are, because I certainly am. And I'm a Kurnai, so I sort of carry that sort of tag with me proudly, do my artwork and put my tag on there as a Kurnai artist. And I just love doing community things. I like getting involved in the community, donating pieces of artworks for raffles, all that sort of stuff. It gives me pleasure. It's the one thing that I love the most is doing my art.
Well, fancy that, eh? Now, your family, you grew up with all your brothers and sisters, but fancy being yanked away from your family and sent off to a foster home in Queensland. Bit rich, don't you think?
It is. I wouldn't like to be like that, no. I think she should be staying in the one place.
Yeah, well, anyway, that's how it was a bit, wasn't it, eh?
Yes, it was. It was terrible.
Yeah. Can you remember running and hiding or anything like that as a kid?
Oh, not really, not quite, no.
Bit young for that, were you?
Yeah, I was a bit younger than that. Probably not even born.
Oh, I'd say you probably were. Yeah. All right, well, we have a surprise visit to our Wine Today's show up from your dear old dad, old DA.
Yes, I'd be interested to see what he says.
What does the A part stand for?
The A for Alfred.
Oh, anyone carry his middle name?
No, not that I know of. So.
Okay, let's take out. Daryl Alfred can take out today's show.
Yes, he will.
How was it with 9 kids in a bark hut?
It was all right. Well, that's what we wanted and that's what we had.
Civilization moving along. Jackson's track has long since gone. It's gonna live in my memory. Home for my mama and my papa and me. If only could I turn the time back, mix it with the lovers and the lumberjacks. Listen to the echo of the old broad axe, rang through the hills of Jackson's track. I know a corduroy road ain't much to some, but you know, Mama and Papa and everyone lived in the buses.